More of you, O Christ, less of me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts draw us closer to you, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Anybody here ever watch Family Feud? Have you seen Family Feud? And so they ask you a question and then people guess what the survey said was the most popular answer and the second most popular, etc. So my question to you today is, what is the number one sin according to the Bible? Survey says?
Love.
None of you have gotten it yet. Nope. Think about the 10 Commandments. What's the first one? What? No. No. No, that's not the number one, though. It's not the one that the whole Bible talks about constantly, even if it doesn't name it by name. Idolatry. You shall have no other gods before me. And that includes your own cheap self. Idolatry. Now, I will tell you that our Puritan ancestors preached more on idolatry than anything else. Even though they were, against liquor, against adultery, all the things you mentioned. They were against all those things, although killing Indians seemed to be just fine for them. Idolatry. You shall have no other gods before me. Number one sin from Genesis to Revelation. It's one of the few true through lines that the Jews and most Christians can agree upon. So this is my hellfire and damnation sermon. The sin that is the sin of all sins is, my sisters and brothers, idolatry. Putting yourself above God. Playing God. Now this is tricky because the Imago Dei, right back there in Genesis, says you are made in the likeness of God. God made them in their likeness. I've always loved that God is plural there. You shall have no other gods before me. Now, I think one of the reasons that we don't think about idolatry so much is a lot of us are a little agnostic about whether God does anything worth doing, and so we think we should just do it ourselves. And I have to admit, I do this a lot, because I do believe that our job as followers of Jesus is to do what Jesus did. And that means doing some pretty amazing things, speaking truth to power. It means having integrity. It means actually being willing to heal people. It means doing things that might be a little dangerous. It means preaching good news to the poor in the most economically unjust systems. And that can get you in a fair amount of trouble. Preaching release to the captives when a whole lot of folks would like to just deport them all to Gitmo. That's what having no other gods before me is about. It means not being passive. It means doing the work we have been given to do, but never, ever lording it over anyone. Because nobody's a king and nobody's God. So this psalm, and it's really difficult sometimes. This was really important to me when I started praying the Psalms, to recognize that so much of what happens in the Psalms is really a reflection on how to keep the law. These are the prayers that help you keep the law. And again, remember, you shall have no other gods before me. Number one commandment. All those folks wanting to put the 10 commandments are there. That's why I always want to know which ones. If you put that in the classrooms and people actually live that out, that'd be amazing. You shall have no other God. And that doesn't mean just talk about God more than everybody else. It means actually letting go of the things that belong to God and sticking with the things that belong to you, which is following the law, do justice, love kindness, walk humbly. You can't avoid the sin of idolatry without a fair amount of humility. It's really, really important to be able to be humble. And I have to say, I find that difficult sometimes. I'm not all that humble. I know stuff. And I can do stuff. And I have confidence. But the difference between confidence and lording it over people is, sometimes you can slide over the line a little. You can go right up the line. I'm not saying go be a wallflower and never do anything. I'm saying do it not to benefit you, but to be faithful and trustworthy. That you are a person who can be counted on to do the things that we learn to do. But all of the law flows in part from you shall have no other gods before me. And so do the Psalms. So this wonderful, beautiful psalm is much longer. And so I actually brought my psalter that I pray with every morning. And I want to read a little bit more. You heard the first 11 verses, but I want to go on a little bit. I didn't want to put these down in writing, partly because it just takes too much. So we ended with, in a little while, the wicked shall be no more. Now that's partly because all of us will be no more. You shall search out their place, but they will not be there. The wicked plot against the righteous and gnash at them with their teeth. God laughs at the wicked, seeing that their day will come. The wicked draw their sword and bend their bow to strike down the poor and needy, to slaughter those who are upright in their ways. Their sword shall go through their own heart, and their bow shall be broken. The little that the righteous has is better than the great riches of the wicked. For the power of the wicked shall be broken, but God upholds the righteous. The lectionary this week turned up Luke's version of love your enemies and turn the other cheek. And because I always do that on Martin Luther King Day, I decided I wasn't going to do it again, and that's why I went to the psalm. But the lectionary folks have paired this psalm with that text for a reason. I think that most Jews praying this psalm will think of idolatry. You got to think long view, the way God sees it. The wicked do whatever they do. The evildoers do what they do. You shouldn't fret about it because God is laughing. God is like, oh, golly, Moses, when will they ever learn? Will they ever learn? They're not in charge, and every time they do this, it just leads to rack and ruin. And if it doesn't get them immediately, eventually it does. The sword does go through their own heart because of what they have done. And I think all of us who have done things we're not proud of know how that goes. I try not to preach Harry Potter very often, but I've always really loved one of the central themes of Harry Potter, which is that if you kill someone, you lose part of your soul. And after a while, you got nothing left. You're just going to be miserable and angry and awful. But here's the thing. If you follow the teachings, you follow the law, you follow the path of the Holy One, you follow the path of Jesus in humility and in justice and in good news, better to not fret about what other people are doing. Keep your own house in order. Keep your own house in order and try to remember God is just laughing at them. That doesn't mean we don't do justice. We do justice. But we don't allow them to infect us. Leave rage alone. Leave anger alone. And when you feel angry or fretful, maybe learn to laugh or sing. I personally find that singing is the way out of fretfulness. When I find myself in times of fretfulness, a song, especially a little happy song, might help. I have to say, on the way over here this morning, and I've never particularly liked this chorus, but I don't know who was doing this version of the Messiah on the radio, but it was the bounciest version I have ever heard in my life. I mean, it was bouncy. Oh, we like sheep have gone astray, have gone astray, have gone astray. Hey, hey, hey. And they literally did, hey, 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 everyone to his own way. I was like, oh my God, that's us. We get off on our own and we just bounce around like the fools that we are. And we don't care if we're bouncing on someone else. And that's what the thing is. It's not that we need to be horribly serious. We just can't let them get to us. I can't remember the Latin, but don't let the turkeys get you down. What is the Latin? Somebody knows the Latin. There's a Latin for that. Yes, that's it. There you go, Joyce. Illegitimus carborundum. Don't let the turkeys get you down. Because we have a lot to celebrate. Because even if we can't fix some of the things that are happening in our nation and in our world, in our local community, we're about to be the heroes. And it will be the strength and the resilience of local communities that make it possible for people to survive. Not because we're playing God, but because we're being trustworthy and faithful. Because we're doing what we believe to be true, which is that a just world should be for all. Oh, other side. A just world should be for all. Finally, in our book group today, last week, we were talking a little bit about the word resistance. And I think resistance is one of those things that makes you sort of tighten up. And it makes you want to control everything. And it's that very moment when you want to be in control that you're going to slip into idolatry. Welcoming everything, as Tim said. Being willing to let things come towards you and go through you and let go of them. And then do what you know you're supposed to do, no matter what. It doesn't matter who's in control of the government or anything else in the moment-to-moment lives we're living. Our job is to be faithful and true. To be the people who people can count on. To be the ones who they'll say, wow, look at how they love. Look at how they make the community better. Look at that smile. That makes me want to smile. That makes me want to be generous. That makes me want to dance. So my invitation to you this week, do not fret, no matter what they do. Don't let them take up free rent in your head. Stay engaged, but just be faithful. Just be true. I often say that the way to answer evil, and you can actually read this in The Art of War, is you should never heap evil at evil. Because that just, again, this is like Harry Potter. They just meet in the middle and nobody wins. But the asymmetry of meet evil with good is shockingly effective. As is love your enemies. If nothing else, it will drive them nuts. Or as one of the Hebrew Bible texts says, love your enemies. Love your enemies. Wow. That is a cleansing motif. Love your enemies, thereby heaping hot coals upon their head. We are the warriors of good. We are the bringers of hope. Don't let the turkeys get you down. Amen.